Right, obviously, the problem I think you've got here, which I want to get into this topic of when we talk about North, is I think you've been put in the same position now, stupidly, that Carrigan has with the Astralis players, where some fan, if you're comparing, right, like Glaive against Carrigan, like the greatest in-game leader, the problem is they both had the same set of players, and one obviously got more success, but the point that doesn't make sense if people contrast it directly is they didn't have them in separate universes. Like, Glaive got to enjoy whatever Carrigan did with the players before, and Carrigan had them when they were way younger, and as you said, they hadn't been through the same trials and tribulations. You know, so basically to me, they had different players. But the problem is someone might look at you and say the same thing. They might go, you had k0nfig and Magisk. Like, Magisk goes on to become an MVP of like a major. Everyone knows obviously right now k0nfig was a mega hot property. The last couple of years he's been back on fire again. But the players you had back then were a lot younger. Like I'm guessing like this is the time they were like 18, 19 years old. And a lot of them, this is the first time they're good players, you know, before they were just like bottom of tier one trying to break in. So what I would ask is this, do you see them as different players in the era when you had them from the players that you see today?
Yeah, I would for sure say that everyone have grown up quite a bit. Like back then it was like after party after every event, and it was event every 2 weeks. So you can imagine it's going a bit crazy, like within a team and just in general in people's head. Like they're trying to figure out which man they are, you know, at the same time as everything is going crazy. So I would say like they definitely grown up. Like I think Magisk was always a really sick player, and I knew also that he would do even better. But sometimes within a team, it's just like if people can't, I don't know what to say, but I think sometimes there's just not much to do left other than to kick, like, and that goes again like with trust with some people. But yeah, I think both of them have grown up a lot, and obviously they're doing both great now, like Magisk in Vitality and k0nfig in Astralis. I think like k0nfig also had a very hard period after North with Optic.
Yes.
And I also came back to him in Optic, where I also felt like he wasn't 100% in CS anymore. He obviously got that back in Complexity. I think he felt like he needed to step up now, you know, like he needed to show the world that he can do this stuff. So I'm just happy for both of them.
A quick thing I had to ask on that topic, though, is if you remember that particular era, the next year, 2017, when it was North, and obviously these two players ended up eventually getting kicked from the team, Magisk and k0nfig, who'd been the stars. If you remember, that actually put a lot of, like, I would say bad narratives and almost like memes in the community. Like, if you remember, the famous one was like, MSL just kicks you if you play well or something, which is, listen, when it was a joke, that was funny. When people actually started to think it was real, was when I started to go, fucking hell, like, we're going to have to slow down on this. So I actually feel like this topic ties into what a lot of people feel about North in general, which is people think that North, because North the org was obviously in cooperation with FC Copenhagen, a football team, and they did make the marketing famously about the fact that you practice rooms inside the stadium. I actually thought that the team itself did try to give off the air, which fair enough, by the way, Astralis does it as well. You tried to make it seem to the public like, no, we're like a sports team though, you know, we're very professional, we're not just a bunch of gamers, you know, we're trying to do things like true pros. And so from the outside and knowing a little bit about the inside, I understand why those two kicks took place, because the logic was, if people don't know, neither of those players were actually, like, it's not that they were too bad in the game, of course, they were both very good players. But first of all, if you just go and look at when they were kicked, they weren't in their peak form, their numbers had gone down, and there was, like, essentially, in English you'd say there were extracurricular reasons, like, you know, there were reasons outside of, in this case, the sporting result. It was like how they behaved or how they practiced, etc. There was other reasons, right? So here's the question I have, MSL. It's a tricky question. I get why a fan would think, what an idiot, why would you kick your star players? That you've got to find a way to work with them. But if you're trying to go like an actual professional approach, if people act in a certain way, especially if they're either disrespectful or they don't turn up to practice, things like this, like, eventually if you're being sportsman, you probably do have to fire that guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's about professionalism, and I will say that probably looking back, we could maybe have given a bit more time to see if people, like, especially Magisk, I feel like could have gotten more of a warning and get a chance to fix it, you know. But I think there was no going back with k0nfig, and yeah, that was not a decision from me at all, or the team.
I will say, by the way, on the Config one, if you go watch his Reflections interview, he basically admits as much himself. Like he sort of says in his career, he basically sounds, by the way, dude, almost like one of those guys who's like an addict, you know, like a drug addict or something. He sort of says he had to hit rock bottom and realise, like, I fucked my career up, and you know, I have to practice all that. Yeah, like I don't blame that one on North. Like you say, he had plenty of problems after that. It's not like he went straight to another team. It's just it looked bad on Magisk because even though he didn't go straight to another team, it was only like a year later or something. Like he was obviously in Astralis and everyone was amazing. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.